Once upon a time, in the quiet and picturesque village of Elderglen, nestled at the edge of an ancient forest known as the Whispering Woods, there lived a spirited young boy named Kael. He was unlike any other child in the village. His imagination soared higher than the tallest trees, and his curiosity often led him into trouble. Every morning, Kael would set out with the flock of sheep to graze near the outskirts of the woods, but instead of focusing on his task, he spent most of his days dreaming up grand adventures. The villagers spoke often of the dangers lurking within the Whispering Woods. Tales of wolves with glowing amber eyes and razor-sharp teeth had been passed down for generations. These creatures were said to be cunning hunters, capable of outsmarting even the bravest warriors. But Kael dismissed these stories as mere folklore, finding them more exciting than frightening. To him, the forest was a place of mystery and wonder, a perfect setting for one of his many imagined escapades. One sunny afternoon, while tending the sheep beneath the shade of a sprawling oak tree, boredom overtook Kael. The sheep lazily chewed on tufts of grass, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and distant chirping of birds. Feeling restless, Kael decided it was time for some entertainment. Standing atop a hill overlooking the village, he cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Wolf, wolf, help me!" The cry echoed through the valley, reaching every corner of Elderglen. Within moments, the villagers emerged from their homes, armed with pitchforks, axes, and torches. They rushed to the pasture, expecting to find a ferocious beast attacking the flock. Instead, they found Kael doubled over with laughter, clutching his sides. "You should have seen your faces," he exclaimed, barely able to speak through his giggles. The villagers exchanged annoyed glances before returning to their work, muttering about how children these days lacked responsibility. Kael thought it was hilarious. So, the next day, when boredom struck again, he repeated the prank. Once more, the villagers came running, only to find him pretending to wrestle an imaginary wolf. This time, they weren't amused. Old Man Roderick, the village elder, stepped forward, his weathered face stern. "Kael," he warned, "one day something terrible might happen, and we won't believe you because of your tricks." But Kael brushed off the warning. After all, no one had seen a wolf in years. What harm could a little fun do? Unbeknownst to Kael, deep within the heart of the Whispering Woods, something stirred. An enormous gray wolf had awakened after a long hibernation, driven by hunger following a harsh winter. Its fur was matted with frost, its muscles rippled with strength, and its golden eyes gleamed with intelligence. It moved silently through the underbrush, stalking prey that ventured too close to the forest's edge. For days, the wolf watched the sheep grazing near the woods. It observed Kael lounging lazily under the trees, seemingly oblivious to the danger nearby. The predator bided its time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One fateful evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Kael noticed movement among the shadows of the trees. At first, he thought nothing of it, a deer or perhaps a fox. But then he saw it, the wolf. It stepped into the clearing, its massive frame casting a long shadow across the grass. Its gaze locked onto the sheep, and Kael felt a chill run down his spine. His heart pounded as the wolf crept closer, its movements fluid and deliberate. Panic surged through him, and without thinking, he screamed at the top of his lungs, "Wolf! Wolf! Please, help!" His voice carried across the valley, echoing toward the village. But this time, no one came. The villagers assumed it was another one of Kael's pranks. Even Old Man Roderick shook his head and muttered, "That boy will never learn." Desperation clawed at Kael as the wolf closed the distance. The sheep bleated in terror, scattering in all directions. He tried shouting louder, waving his arms frantically, but the wolf paid him no heed. In moments, chaos erupted. The predator lunged forward, seizing one of the lambs in its jaws. Just as hope seemed lost, a figure appeared on horseback at the edge of the forest. It was Lyra, the blacksmith's daughter, who had been gathering herbs nearby. She carried a bow slung over her shoulder and a quiver full of arrows. Without hesitation, she drew her weapon and let loose a shot. The arrow whistled through the air, striking the wolf's flank. The creature yelped in pain and dropped the lamb, retreating into the safety of the trees. Lyra dismounted and approached Kael, who stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Lyra placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You need to tell the truth if you want people to trust you," she said firmly but kindly. "This isn't a game anymore." Together they gathered the frightened sheep and led them back to the village. When they arrived, Kael confessed everything to the villagers: the pranks, the lies, and finally, the real attack. Though many were angry, others felt sympathy for the boy, who now looked genuinely remorseful. Determined to make amends, Kael vowed to change. He threw himself into his duties, earning back the trust of the villagers bit by bit. However, the encounter with the wolf left a lasting impression on him. Nightmares plagued his sleep, and during the day he couldn't shake the feeling that the creature might return. One evening, as Kael sat by the fire in the village square, Old Man Roderick approached him. The elder carried a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. "Kael," Roderick began, "the wolf you encountered is no ordinary beast. It is called Fenris, a legendary predator said to roam the Whispering Woods once every century. If left unchecked, it will grow bolder and pose a grave threat not just to our livestock, but to our people." Kael swallowed hard. "What can I do?" Roderick handed him the journal. "Inside are records of those who have faced Fenris before. Study them carefully. You must prepare yourself not just to protect the village, but to prove that you are worthy of redemption." Inspired by the elder's words, Kael embarked on a journey of self-discovery. With Lyra's guidance, he trained tirelessly, learning how to wield a bow, track animals, and navigate the treacherous terrain of the Whispering Woods. Along the way, he discovered hidden strengths he never knew he possessed. Weeks later, Kael stood at the edge of the Whispering Woods, the journal tucked securely in his satchel. Beside him stood Lyra, armed with her bow and a sword forged by her father. Together they ventured into the forest, determined to confront Fenris once and for all. The deeper they traveled, the darker and quieter the woods became. Strange noises echoed around them: snapping twigs, distant howls, and the occasional rustle of leaves. Kael's nerves were stretched thin, but Lyra's steady presence kept him grounded. After hours of searching, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center lay Fenris, its massive form illuminated by the silvery glow. Its golden eyes locked onto them, and a low growl rumbled in its throat. "This is it," Lyra whispered. "Stay focused." Kael nodded, drawing an arrow from his quiver. As Fenris charged toward them, he remembered the lessons he had learned: the importance of patience, precision, and courage. With a deep breath, he released the arrow, striking the wolf squarely in the chest. Fenris staggered, letting out a deafening roar. Lyra followed up with a flurry of arrows, each one hitting its mark. Finally, the great beast collapsed, defeated but not killed. Panting heavily, Kael approached it cautiously, lowering his weapon. "You're magnificent," he murmured, gazing at the creature. "But you don't belong here, preying on innocent lives." To everyone's astonishment, Fenris rose shakily to its feet and limped back into the depths of the forest, vanishing into the shadows. It was as if the battle had awakened something in the wolf, a sense of honor or respect. When Kael and Lyra returned to Elderglen, they were greeted as heroes. The villagers celebrated their bravery, and Kael finally earned the trust and admiration he had long sought. From that day forward, he became known not as the boy who cried wolf, but as the boy who faced it. As for Fenris, sightings of the legendary wolf became rare. Some say it retreated to the farthest reaches of the Whispering Woods, where it continues to roam as a guardian of the forest. Others believe it watches over Elderglen, ensuring the balance between man and nature remains intact. And so, the tale of the boy who cried wolf took on new meaning in Elderglen, a story not just of folly, but of redemption, courage, and the power of truth. Moral of the story: lies may seem harmless at first, but they can lead to dire consequences. Honesty builds trust, which is essential when it truly matters. And sometimes, facing your fears is the greatest adventure of all.